Welcome to Super Simple Security Principles, where you learn how to think about online security, not just which apps to install. I'm Nick Jackson, here to learn along with you from my good buddy and master guardian, Makani Mason. Woo! Hey, if you can't tell from the background, we're celebrating our 100th episode. Woo!
Yeah.
Dude, that's an accomplishment, man. 100 episodes down.
Triple digits. Yep, I know. It's
triple digits.
What, 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. So, should we talk to him a little bit about what this 100th episode's going to be about?
Yeah, well, I was like, what can I do special for 100th episode? I thought about it for a while, but I couldn't come up with anything like subject-wise that was like really distinct, for 100. I want to do a shout out. Grateful for all the people I know we have. Some listeners that with us every episode, and
right to my Aunt Sherilyn. Hey, love you. Thanks for listening to me consistently.
Yeah. Well, and I get emails from her, periodically, like, thanks for this thing or that thing and stuff. So, those are pretty awesome, and I look forward to another 100, and and doing having more time too, off from my day job, where I can do more with the podcast and do more promotion of it. But for now, I'm just grateful to still be here recording with you at episode 100. So appreciate you, Nick. I still think about when we first started this, and you pitched it to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. Like, no. Not gonna do it, man. Not gonna do it. And you pushed me. You were staying at my place for that during that week or two. And I still remember recording like the first episode, and it took hours of be agonizing and preparing and writing, and it was just heart-wrenching, or gut-wrenching, heart-rending, whatever. It was brutal for me in the beginning, and I think for you too. But but I'm just really grateful to you for getting me to do it anyway. Because it made all the difference in the world in terms of building this and gathering people and helping me figure out we're going down the journey slowly, but getting to where we want to go to figure out how to help people in the way that we want to. And I feel like doing this has been just a core foundation piece of that. So I really will always be grateful to you, Nick, for dragging me kicking and screaming to do a podcast, putting my face on video.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. What could I say? Well, this 100th episode is, which email app should I use? It's a question. It's a question I like. I told you a little bit about this before we started recording. I kind of said, hey, look, I'm intrigued about this episode. Obviously, you have some thoughts. You've done some work into what, email app you think we should go with. So, I'm excited to hear your recommendation about this and see which direction we should start pivoting to for our email address. So, with no further ado, our 100th episode is about to begin. Makani, thank you for your time, your effort over the years. And let's dive right in, man. Which email app?
Well, so before we even get into the specifics of the apps, I want to say that for the most part, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, email apps, the choices between them are less about direct security differences, right? Because obviously you want to use the most secure one, right?
Right.
But for the most part, there aren't like massive differences in security for the app itself. It's more about indirect security because of usability. And
Gotcha.
even though it's not directly about security, I don't want that to, in people's mind, be not significant, because the more we've been doing this, the more I have been convinced that usability, user friendliness, is also a critical piece of security that's undervalued and under-recognized. Because, and the real short version is simply because it frees up more of your energy, more of your time, more of your attention to pay attention to security.
Right.
Right. When you're not frustrated, when you're not pulling your hair out, when you're not just trying to make the thing work, then you can think more about security. And that's kind of the short version. So
I love it.
So what I have used personally, and I'll talk a little bit about the others, but I want to focus specifically on the ones that I have most experience with. So on mobile, on my phone, I've used the Fastmail app, and I've used the Apple Mail app, and I've used the Gmail app. I've used a handful of others, tinkered, but those are the three that I've used a significant amount.
Okay.
On the desktop, I've used Thunderbird, the Apple Mail app. I know, right? It's an open source one. We'll talk about it. I'm just giving the list for the moment. One called EM Client, MimeStream, and Spark.
Okay.
So there's 5 different ones there that I've and of course Fastmail as well there. Right. So six different ones. And presently on desktop, I am using 2 because I have I'm using the Fastmail desktop app, and I'm using one called MimeStream.
Okay.
I'm using Fastmail for all my Fastmail accounts, and I shouldn't say all of them. I have 2 Fastmail accounts, but and on MimeStream is for my Gmail accounts, which I have 3 of.
Okay.
4 of. No, 3 of. Yeah. So that's where I am, and I'll just say that I have complaints with most of the desktop apps. And my favorite of all the apps, desktop and mobile, are the Fastmail.
Okay.
Apps. And I mean, obviously, they're easily my preferred email provider.
Right.
And one of the factors is their email app. They just released the desktop email app. They've had a phone app for a very long time. But they finally got to doing a desktop app this year.
Nice.
Yeah, I was super happy about that, because I was having to use other desktop apps, just like we talked about last episode. I prefer to use a desktop email app, and they just weren't as good because they weren't as customized. And anyway, I'm just really glad that they're still working on things. And again, that's a huge differentiating factor, that they have a really nice desktop email app and Gmail doesn't. They want you in the browser, and I think that's a terrible idea. So
right, a place where all your information could be leaked.
Yeah, it's a very insecure place. So so that's what I've used. That's what I want to start with. And so my first kind of general recommendation on what people use, besides obviously just, Fastmail rocks, but is whatever your email provider is, if they have a specific app, that typically will give you the best experience, because they'll have more things customized for you.
Okay.
We talked about Fastmail. Gmail, on mobile is a pretty good app. Okay. But they don't have one on desktop. The next one is Proton, and we're going to talk about them a lot more next week in episode 101. But they're a pretty big new name in the privacy security email world. And nice. I don't have a ton of experience with their app, mostly because I really kind of hated it. I hate to say that, because I don't want to, we'll get into full details on Proton, but I struggled with the email app, but I still think it's actually your best option. In Proton's case, actually, you really have to use their app unless you do. There is a workaround, but it's kind of a hassle. So by default, you have to actually use their app.
Gotcha.
And then two more, Tuta, Tuta. It's another encrypted email provider, kind of like Proton, but a little bit stricter, even sort of. Because they also require you to use their app, and there's no workaround. And I haven't actually used theirs. I do have an account, but I just played with it a little bit in the browser. Didn't, fully adopt it. So, and the last one though, and this is the one app, like all the rest, it's like, well, there's, pros and cons, ups or downs or whatever. But the one that I most recommend against is any Microsoft email client.
All right, there you have it.
Now, I have to give a caveat on that because I haven't actually personally used a Microsoft email client in many years. Okay, so are you using one now?
Mm-hmm.
What? So you use an Outlook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Absolutely hate it. I have no positive things to say about Microsoft email, which is sad because I really feel like they have the potential to do the most with their email.
Yeah.
But it's a huge,
right, they have, yeah, go ahead.
It's just full of flaws. So many issues.
Yeah. Right. And they have a very big presence, right? They've established, they have a huge user base, and
it's for my company. It's what my company uses.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why most people end up being, because it gets in the corporate world. And so, and so I can't speak to a lot of specifics. It's just, I keep up on the news, as you know, and I just do not hear any good things security-wise about Microsoft and email, not only their client, but even more about their like account service, like having an email account with Microsoft. Both of those things are bad ideas in my mind. So
right.
Now, those are the provider specific things. So I want to talk about just briefly then about some generic ones. So for your phone, there's the Apple Mail app, and you can use that with Gmail. You can use that with Fastmail. You can use it with Yahoo. Obviously, you can use it with Apple email account, and it's decent. And then there's the only other one that I really have used or seen a lot of and feels comfortable to me is called Spark. And that will work on, of course, Apple one only works on Apple, but Spark will work on Apple or Android. I haven't used it a ton, but yeah. And then on desktop, for Windows or Mac, there's Thunderbird, which is an open source free one. And, it's slightly clunky, but I've had a lot of, a number of non-techie people use it just fine because their email needs are not super sophisticated.
Right.
And it's pretty good. Spark is another one. That is paid, but it's got some pretty good features that you get for that payment as well. So that's the other one worth looking at if you if you're a Mac OS user. Apple Mail is a decent choice as well.
Okay.
So now I should say Outlook is a generic one, even though it's Microsoft specific. Like you could check your Gmail account with Outlook, but again, I don't recommend it.
Don't.
So, I don't know. I'm not even sure what my takeaway or overall thing here is.
Let me give you some time to think. I'll give you my takeaway.
Yeah, please do.
This is my takeaway, and it's going to be direct. It's going to be one company. Microsoft. Dude, get it together. I have to use your crap. You can do better than this. That's what I have to say. Any Microsoft employee or anybody working there, I'm calling you out. Fix your email. It's terrible. Enough said.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I got to say. We know it's dead last. Everybody that uses it knows it's dead last. I work for a big corporation, and we get hacked all the time because of our stupid Microsoft Office crap. Like, come on. You think being a big tech company, you'd be able to have a little bit of security, but no, I feel like if you're wanting to be a hacker, the first place you start is with Microsoft. Like, that's where you start. If you're a beginner and a rookie, go to Microsoft. They're the easiest to take advantage of.
Right.
Sorry, that's my rant.
Yeah, no worries. No. And I guess I would just say, we've kind of been comparing Fastmail and Gmail a lot.
Yeah.
And so I obviously, if you're using Fastmail, then I recommend the Fastmail app. I guess I should mention, I talked about MimeStream, and it's kind of a funky name, but it's a Gmail specific one that works really well with Gmail. It does cost money. Nice. But again, it's worth it to me. I use it for my Gmail accounts because as much as I hate Gmail because of just different work things, I do have Gmail accounts that I can't get away from for now. Mm-hmm. And so I use MimeStream for that. But I've been happy with Spark too, and Spark has some very good features. And so if you're considering it and you're willing to pay, but don't want to switch to Fastmail as your email provider, for example, then I think Spark is worth looking at as well. So
yeah.
But more than anything, I wanted to give this answer so people knew what my thoughts were and what I use and things. But more, I think my takeaway is I just want to reiterate what we talked about last week of using one at all, right?
Yeah.
Like more than anything.
Yeah.
Honestly, if your only choice is even Outlook, if you're using that versus a browser, I would still, I think, probably a little bit hesitant. But other than that one, I'm 100% sure you should use that. Microsoft, I have little misgivings even in that. But anyway.
All right.
There we go.
Okay. Love it. Dude, that was a good episode. I got to rant a little bit. Yeah. You got to whittle down. We narrowed it down to make sure you're doing what we talked about last week. Make sure you've got an email app.
And we got to stare at cake, we
got to stare at cake the whole
background.
Time. I'm hungry now. Let's go.
I know. We'll have to go eat some after.
All right, buddy. That was a good one.
Are you ready to take action and wondering where to start? Get my Bulletproof My Identity Starter Kit for free. The 7 most vital layers of protection everyone needs. I'll send you one step at a time and help you if you get stuck. Just go to bulletproofmyid.com and enter your name and email, and I will send you the first step. Again, that's bulletproofmyid.com.